Izzy is the owner of a small deli in Queens when one day the tax inspector knocks on his door, starts to question him about his recent tax return. He had reported a net profit for that year of $50,000 and the inspector's investigating. So Izzy says, it's like this, well, I work like a crazy person, like a maniac all year round, and my family, they help me out wherever they can, and so because my deli is really only closed a couple days in the year, I was able to make that $50,000. And okay, tax inspector says, it's really not your income that's bothering us though. It's the business travel deductions of $80,000. That's really what we're wondering about. You see, you entered on the tax return that you and your wife made 15 business trips to Miami Beach. Oh, that, Izzy says with a smile. I forgot to tell you, we also deliver. My friends, I thought about this joke. For one, because it is technically still tax season, right? I guess until tomorrow. If you're an accountant and you're still swimming in returns, our prayers are with you. If you finished, I hope you find some peace this Shabbat. But I thought about it also because our Torah reading this morning is all about counting. The book of Bamidbar, famously named in English the book of Numbers, for this very reason. You open the Parashat that we opened this morning, that we chanted a few moments ago, it's almost dizzying. No, actually, it is dizzying, the detailed accounting of the Jewish people. I think it could make even the most seasoned CPA's head start to spin. Tribe of Reuven, 46,500. Tribe of Shimon, 59,300. On and on. Tribe of Judah, anybody know? 74,600. Numbers, certainly. But there's a lesson there, an important one. Behind and informing all that emphasis that our Torah places on counting here in the book of Numbers is one of the great messages of our faith, that a person, that a human being is not a number, that a soul, that the story of a life is not something that you can quantify. It's not something that you can reduce to a mere point of data on a screen. We're immeasurable. That's why the Haftarah that Hudson chanted so beautifully a few moments ago says explicitly, as if to double down on this very point, lo imad, velo yisaper. It means you can't measure. It means you can't count really when it comes to a person, when it comes to that potential within every one of us for goodness, the fullness of who we are in all of its complexity and beauty. It's infinite. It's why, you might not know this, it's actually against Jewish law to count Jews. I can't count you for a minyan in a typical way by pointing and going 1, 2, 3, 4. God forbid I do that, because God forbid I reduce you in that way and who you are in that way to a number. We're not supposed to do it. And it's also why, and I mentioned it, when the Torah speaks about all that counting, it says something very peculiar. It says, as I mentioned, Se'u et rosh, lift up the faces of those around you, because behind all those numbers and that sea of people that were there, all the tribes of Israel standing there in the desert in the Midbar, every single one, every face, not a number, an image of God. My friends, I bring it up this morning because I think we all know on some level what it means to let numbers define who we are. We all do it to some extent. An age, too old for this, I'm too young for that. The number in a bank account, or the number that's on the back of our car, or the model number that's on the back of a neighbor's car, we do it. The number on a scale for many. For young adults, for students, it could be the number of likes that you get on an Instagram post. It could be an SAT score that you're letting define who you are. I'm not saying that these numbers, right? You know. I'm not saying they're not important. They have their place. In the Jewish world, some know that it was just this week that the most recent Pew report was released. It details all the numbers that have to do with Jewish life in America, all the data, which Jews are going to which movements, on and on and on by percent. It has its place. But in all that sea of numbers, we need to know too what our Torah, what the book of Numbers is really all about, the immeasurables in a life. The things about yourself that you just can't count or write on a piece of paper. The incredible impact that every single one of us, every single person can make on this world. The value of every life. The beauty and the holiness within every life story. When you look into the mirror, when you look into the eyes of another person, whether it's someone you know and love or a stranger in line at Stop and Shop, I hope that you can see in our world of numbers what our Torah tells us you should be able to see. Not bullet points on a resume, not a collection of data as Facebook or Twitter would have it, but an image of God. And just as important is the message to all those who are listening in on the live stream now, and all those who are here, and I hope all those who hear this sermon after the fact, I'll be able to send it out. I hope if you haven't been involved in Jewish life at Temple Beth Torah recently because you feel that you don't have anything to add here, because you're just assuming that you're a number on a congregational list, let me tell you, you mean so much more to this community. And I want you to know how that's not the case. That your voice does and must count here in ways that you might not have realized. I want to be able to count on everyone here to help us to make our community stronger into this next chapter, just as I pray that in time, you will count on me always to be there for you as your new rabbi. So my friends, in just a moment, we're going to turn to the Musaf service and then toward our concluding prayers, and we'll move quickly through them, but I'll leave you with an image. It's an earlier moment of the Torah. When God meets Abraham, our very first patriarch, he makes a promise. He says to Abraham, look up at the stars, usforotam, and count them if you're able to. And then God says to Abraham in that beautiful moment, so too will be your people. Now you ask the question, what was God really promising there? If the Jewish people are less than 0.2% of the world's population, how could it be that we would be as numerous as the stars in the sky? It couldn't be about quantity. It couldn't be about numbers in that sense. So what was God really saying? Count them. That your people, Abraham, that us, our people, will know what it means through the generations to count in ways throughout history that are so much deeper, so much more lasting, that we're meant as a Jewish people, as a community, certainly to be like those stars that shine, that lead the way for one another and lead the way for our world. So this Shabbat, into Shavuot, which is to come in just a day after Shabbat, our time for recommitting and doubling down on all that goodness that we bring into our community and into our world. May we all know what it means to do just that. May we know, each of us, that our potential is far greater than any of the numbers, any of the limitations that we place on ourselves can possibly decide. May we know not only to count our days as they fly by, but to make them count with the wisdom and strength that we bring to them. In the spirit of Bamidbar, book of Numbers, may we as a community find new ways to count on one another, as I pray you will count on me. Look up at the stars and count them if you can, God says, but you can't count light. May the light that we bring into this sanctuary and into our world and into our community in this new chapter shine as brightly as I know it can. And may we count together many, many beautiful years to come. Shabbat Shalom.